All right. Well, welcome to today's Stand Up Stand Up. I'm your host, Jerry Black. As always, we're going to talk about the topic for the week for about 10 minutes, and then we will get into some open source comedy. So thank you all for watching, and very excited to continue the topic of imposter syndrome. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was trying to think of, is there a way to kind of turn this on its head? Like, instead of talking about the symptoms and things like that, let's dive deep into, if you have imposter syndrome, what is your world like? And so when you think about, if instead of saying, oh, well, I think I have imposter syndrome or something along those lines, like, I have imposter syndrome. So I wake up every day feeling like I am not really the person that that other people perceive. And in that world and in that realm, and being in that spot, you think about things like, even just relationships that you have with people tend to feel at times like they're fake, because they're not. You can't put any real faith in them, because why would somebody like you, sort of thing. And then, like, well, I guess I was just trying to think of, like, what is apex imposter syndrome? If you put yourself in that world, then knowing what you know, how would you get yourself out of it? And I didn't come to any, great conclusions or anything along those lines, but it did, at least in my mind, make me think of, a lot of the time we have sympathy for people, but we don't necessarily try and understand their perspective. We say, oh, I feel bad for you. And that's sort of where we stop. I feel bad for you, and I'm not gonna, a lot of worry comes, I think, at least for me, I worry because if I spend too much time trying to understand that person, trying to dig into that person's psyche, that I'm going to end up down there with them, and whatever that happens to be, whether it's depression or otherwise, or imposter syndrome or something else. I always worry that, man, if I do this, I'm going to end up there, and I'm going to have imposter syndrome, and I don't want to have imposter syndrome. And just sort of a mental exercise of saying, okay, well, if I did have imposter syndrome, what would that be like? What is the deepest, darkest? What if I wanted to be the most perfect imposter syndrome person ever? Which is funny, because one of the ways you end up with imposter syndrome is that you believe perfection is the requirement, and if you don't hit it, there's something wrong with you. So I want to be the most perfect imposter syndrome person ever. What would that look like? Who would I be? And then knowing everything that I know now, and I don't have imposter syndrome, although I do, and probably varying degrees of it. Well, I think we all probably do at varying degrees of it. But knowing where I am, how would I help myself get at least to where I am? What would I say to myself? How would I I'm down here, and go, yeah, but all these other things, and you really are here, pretending to be here. How do you get you from here to here? Probably makes no sense what I just said. But anyways, that's going to be my mental exercise over the next couple of days to try and solve this out. From a programming perspective, we will not have an episode on Friday. I am unavailable. So that means that we will be, tomorrow will be our last one for the week. And it will be the last one for the topic of imposter syndrome. So I guess I better get working on that. As far as open source comedy for the day, I didn't have anything written up for today. One of the things I need to do is work on having my topics, sort of thoughts for the day, and my jokes for the day written out, really sort of bashed out, so that when we get into these, I always have something for us to talk about, to work off of, etc. So anyways, thanks everybody for joining, and